I must say I think that's the best title we've ever had. That's perfect. But yeah, if you're on the outside looking in right now, your playoff chances are slim to none, I would say. But it's going to take something very big happening this week for someone to break in. Well, someone I saw today on Twitter, like at this point in the last few years, I don't think anyone below 7th has ever snuck into the playoffs in the last 2 weeks. So that tells you what you need to know. If you're below 6th now, you probably don't have much of a chance. Yeah. Yeah, if anyone doesn't know, I'm attending my first Lions game this weekend. I fly out to New York today, heading to the game on Sunday. Apparently, so far there's me, my partner, Ben, Andrew, Rich, Ryan. There's about 6 or 7 of us from the UK meeting up. We're going to do the Big Blue New York Giants barbecue buffet, like tailgate thing. So we'll be meeting there. So yeah, I can't wait. It looks really good. Dressing, packing all winter gear this weekend because apparently it's very cold there right now. So yeah, I can't wait actually. So that's the first one off the bucket list. See an NFL game in America.
Found Cybertrack. Is that it? That looks like it. That looks like I've got it. Have I got that there? Is that better, fellas? Let me see if I can. Have I got this one now? Yeah, have I got that there? Is that better, fellas? There we go. Let me see if I can. There we go. Have I got this one now? Yeah, have I got that there? Is that better, fellas? There we go. Let me see if I can. Right, I'm really sorry about this. Right, everybody, we're going to start this again, and we're going to go from a point where I can do this right. So we'll be back in 5 seconds, and we'll start the show again. What up, there, One Pride? This is the Roar Lions UK podcast, the podcast where One Pride goes worldwide. And this is the college football podcast, the house that Vander-Built. My name is Anthony Fitzpatrick, his name is Ryan McCluskey. We've got no technical issues anymore, and I'm hoping it stays that way. Ryan, we're entering the last couple of weeks of the college football season. This is the point where mistakes cost you championships. This is the point where strokes of good fortune can win you titles. And if you're not locked in as a player, you're locked out of the postseason.
Yep, I believe it's either 3 or 4 of the championship games are now confirmed, but there's still a good 5 or 6 across the group of 5 and Power 5 to play for. They're all going to probably come down to this weekend. Can't see many of them going down to the wire because a lot of them are very much contested. So, and yet the playoffs, if you're outside of, I'd say, number 6 right now, you probably need a miracle to have any chance to get in because of what's happened last weekend and what's going to happen now. So any 4 of the top 6 probably look like the ones that are going to make the college football playoff. If anyone wants to try upset that or break in now, this is your last chance to do it, and you need to do it in style. Bowl games are basically nearly full. Nearly all their teams are eligible now that have got in the last time. So right now there is everything to play for some teams. Some teams got nothing to play for, and some that have made their championship, 1 or 2 of them can kind of relax. They've maybe a locked-in playoff spot, and they've got a title game already.
Yeah, definitely. It is at the point now where you cannot afford a mistake, otherwise someone will take your place. We've got a lot lined up on the show today. We're going to be looking back at week 11 of the college football season. We're going to be looking at the latest news because there is a lot to go on in college football at this moment in time. We've had our first coaching hire of the year. Very interesting one. We'll go talk about that. We are going to look ahead at week 12 as well, the second to last week of the season. So we really are getting to the end of things here, folks. I mean, just for the audio podcast, just in case it comes out, if I haven't mentioned already, Ryan is on his way over to America this week. He is going to the Big Apple to watch the Detroit Lions play the New York Giants. So if any of you are going to be there this weekend and you want to make contact with him, just let us know. And yeah, the more people I'm sure he wants to meet, the better. But hopefully, Ryan, 3 on the road for the Lions, who are quickly going away from college football. It's good time at the minute. Romeo Quara's back. Life's good at this moment as a Lions fan. It's a weird feeling.
Yeah, I'm very confident. The Giants are not very good. I'd say Justin Fields is way better than Daniel Jones. Daniel Jones doesn't fear him in the slightest. So I know the key to victory. Like I say, we're getting a bit healthier. We're getting closer to seeing Jameson Williams. I'm not sure if we will see Romeo, but the fact he's this season, but the fact he's actually practicing tells you that he will be at least fully fit for next year now, which is a big relief because we didn't expect to see him on the field all this season, let alone practicing. So it's a big jump. Like I said, 13 months he's been out now. So just to see him on the field at all this year would be a huge relief to us, and probably him as well. Probably starting to think that he would end up getting shut down for the year at this point.
Yeah, absolutely. So it's great news as far as Romeo Okwara goes, and they say hopefully it's going to be a successful weekend for the Lions in New York and give Ryan a victory to watch whilst he is over there. So that will be good fun. Right, shout out to everyone who's joining us before we start. YouTube, SW Lion is in there. He goes, hi, Roar the Lions UK. 2 tough games left for my Wolverines. They can't overlook Illinois. No, they can't, although Illinois have fallen off a cliff. I'm going to talk about that very shortly, but yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing some Devon Witherspoon this week, one of the best corners in college football. Can he do it against the Wolverines? I hope so. In the Twitch chat, Ash is in there as always. Derek Bobarek is in as well. Thank you guys for putting up with the apparent mutism in there for a little while. It wasn't affecting YouTube, it was just affecting... Oh no, it was affecting both actually, so yeah. Appreciate you sticking with us for that. If you got any questions or anything as we go along, always feel free to put them in the comments on YouTube or Twitch. I will keep checking them. Right, go quickly get some housekeeping out the way. Then we're going to crack on with this. So, Roar the Lions UK Discord, if you want in on that, let us know. We'll send you a link. That's all good fun. Roar the Lions main podcast. If you've not seen already, we had another celebration on Monday because we beat the Chicago Bears, which is one of the most sweetest victories we've had as Lions fans in some time. And by the way, way, if you're short of a salt stock anywhere and you need some for your house, I recommend going to Chicago because there is that much of it there at the minute. You will never run out. They are some whiny so-and-sos over there in Chicago. The main pod is back tomorrow, though. We will be chatting New York Giants preview, which will be good fun. Hoping to get our friends from Big Blue UK on with us. And don't forget to like and subscribe to everything, our YouTube, our Twitch. Had a couple of new subscriptions on YouTube over the last few days. Thank you to Jeffrey, Miller and Dan, who subscribed a couple of days ago. Really appreciate that. And as always, to everyone on Twitter, really helps us if you're able to click those likes and click those subscription buttons. If you like us, that is. Means you're letting us know we're doing a good job. And of course, don't forget about Lions Nation Unite, Herman Moore's pet project to bring Lions content creators together. Get all the best of the guys on there. You get Mark Oram from Oran's Forum, you get us, you get Detroit Lions on the Prowl, you get Dose of Dion, you get some incredibly good channels on there. So yeah, thank you very much, and go and check it out. Right, let's move on with the podcast because we have a lot to talk about. Oh, Ash has put in a question. I will answer that question in a little bit, Ash. I'll get the news out of the way first, then we'll go into that one. So a lot of news to get over this week, and sadly we have to start off on a very somber note this week. It's been, well, a really bad week for the state of Virginia. There's been a really terrible accident there. So one of the former Virginia players, he was a walk-on football player by the name of Christopher Darnell Jones Jr. He was a lone gunman who killed 3 members of the current 2022 Cavaliers football team. Those guys are Devin Chandler, Lavelle Davis Jr. and Deshaun Perry, who were all fatally wounded by him, and there's 2 further players in hospital, one who is in critical condition, one who is in stable condition. Obviously, all our thoughts and prayers go out to the families and friends and teammates of all those 3 and the 2 in hospital as well. But this is not something you want to see, Ryan. It's very horrible and, devastating for Virginia.
Yeah, it's the season it's gone really badly, and then things like they were probably just looking forward to their rival game kids in the season, and then it's one of their own, like you say, a current student at the university, but a former player as well. So it's impossible to say how or why it happened, but the fact it happened and happened on campus is awful. And like I say, it affects them on the field, off the field, their families, the campus. They've cancelled the game, the Coastal Carolinas weekend. They're debating whether to cancel a rival game against Virginia Tech in the last week of the season too. But yeah, the whole university is in mourning, and their thoughts are with them from, I think, everyone from college football across the country. So it's an awful thing to happen.
Yeah, as I say, it was obviously send all our thoughts on there, and yeah, not something you want to see. So yeah, sending our thoughts out to all of you over there in Virginia who've been affected by this. Right, let's move it on. We've got a lot of news, and speaking of Virginia, actually staying there, West Virginia, they have agreed to separate with their athletic director, Shane Lyons. We say separate, we kind of mean pushed out the door. He's been AD there since 2015. The football program has not been enjoying successful times of late, especially this season. A quick search is expected to announce his replacement, but it is widely expected that Neil Brown, their current head coach of West Virginia, is going to follow him. That's not really a surprise, really, is it? It's been a rotten season for them, and to be honest, I'm surprised he's still there now. But the AD going, that's never good for an incumbent head coach because it's usually their guy.
Yeah, usually when you're an athletic director, you hang your hat on a head coach, and if usually one of you fails, it's probably pretty detrimental for the other. But when the director goes, the head coach has got to go with him because he's his love child, essentially. And as you mentioned, a talented group of players in West Virginia, but wildly inconsistent results. Up and down all season, and it's just not been what they wanted. The last few years have been pretty poor, yeah. And they've had so much talent as well. It's not like West Virginia are a bad team. Like I said, they had Will Greer for a few years, who was fantastic, and the team still wasn't achieving anything. or getting at those upper echelons of wins. So yeah, they're in a bit of a rebuild right now, but it's probably in a fairly attractive job. So I think they'll fill those vacancies pretty quickly.
Yeah, I would assume so with their. Thank you to John Ball, who's joined in the YouTube chat. Hope you're doing well. Thank you for joining us. Next one, maybe the oddest story of the week in the football college world, Ryan. College football game day is going to Bozeman for some FCS action for the Brawl of the Wild between the Montana Grizzlies and the Montana State Bobcats. Not sure if this was the case, but on the show Saturday, one of the presenters mentioned, he was just putting this off the mark comment. He was like, "Oh, wherever we end up next, is it Bozeman or something like that?" Pat McAfee picked up on it, and of course, you know what he does. He's the biggest hype guy in the world. Started saying, "Oh yeah, we should go to Bozeman," yada yada yada. It picked up traction on social media, and maybe Game Days decided to pick up on it. I mean, this you know a lot about the FCS, right? This is one of the most heated and fierce rivalries in all of football, but it was the last place that you would expect game day to end up, given that the forecast for the day is going to be about -3.
Yeah, it's a weird one because obviously it's a heated rivalry. Like, in the Big Sky, there's not a lot to play for. Like I say, I'll talk about results, but Montana, by their standards, not a very good year. Not kind of in playoff contention, but they're really letting themselves down after having such a good start. Montana State have been wiping the floor with teams. Absolute gave someone a pasting this weekend. They're still ranked 3 in the nation after making a playoff run last year. So I suppose for Montana, the state, and FCS, it's good to see. I hope it will be a competitive game. I'd hate for it to be one-sided because one of them is playing for a national title. One of them is playing for basically tons of bragging rights. Because I think one of them is probably at risk of missing the playoffs. So, yeah, hopefully the heated rivalry lives up to it. Because, like I say, it's going to be cold. Like I say, we'll see what kind of crowd it generates. But, yeah, it's an interesting one when you consider all the matchups across football this weekend.
Yeah, there's some really big ones out there, and you're like, I don't know, I get the feeling that like this game day location thing is going to be a big thing on its own. I feel like it's almost going to become like a Wheel of Fortune and be like, oh, where's the most random place we can go this week to draw up interest? But I guess the thing is, the atmosphere is going to be electric. I've read up on this, and they really do not like one another out of these two teams, and it's, there's so few of those rivalries around where it's pure and utter hatred. So going to be interesting to see, but might watch the game as well. John Ball says, "You're welcome out, man. Try to support all Lions YouTubers when I can." Hey, we appreciate it. We all really there are a lot of good Lions YouTubers, and we appreciate you spending your time with us amongst all the others as well. Right, news wise. In fact, no, first, I just want to give a massive shout out to Derek Bo Barrick. He has tipped us $10 saying, keep up the great work. Hey, thank you, Derek. That means a hell of a lot to us that you're enjoying it, and we will try and keep up our high standards as always. But thank you for backing us. You have for a long time now, and we really, really appreciate it. Talking of the college football playoffs, we mentioned it briefly here, right? There's 8 teams who are technically still in with a chance at this point in time. We've got Georgia, Michigan, Ohio State, TCU, which is currently a top 4 just with Michigan and Ohio State flipped. Then you've got Tennessee, LSU, who we're going to talk about in a minute, USC, and Clemson with an outside shot there. I mean, USC and Clemson, I guess, are going... I think you're right. Maybe those two, it's probably a bit too far if nobody loses who we're not expecting to lose. I guess we're going to get a Final 4 out of those first 6.
Yeah, I don't rate USC at all. I don't rate the Pac-12 because it's not the USC results, it's everyone else's results. It makes them look bad. Like the results that UCLA have, the results that Utah have, like that brings down your overall standings. That brings down the whole conference and division. They let themselves down. So that weakens your stance, I think. So unless, let's say, they go unbeaten, win the title, I don't know, do they get in over a one-loss SEC team? I'm still not convinced. And when you look at Clemson, yeah, they got the title game with UNC, but it don't feel that strong. I feel like UNC have been fantastic, but the schedule feels like it's been a cakewalk. It feels like they've not actually had to do much. Like say. So when you look at their resume, if they beat UNC and win the title, where it judges up against other teams' wins, I'm not sure. So it's hard. Like I say, there's a chance.
Yeah.
4 is at risk. Like I say, right now TCU have got 4. If TCU lose a game between now and the end of the season, they're out. They will just fall out immediately, and someone will take that spot. They cannot lose.
See, the really interesting scenario comes if LSU beat Georgia in the championship game. And we're going to talk about those in a minute, especially if because LSU play A&M next week. I have a feeling that might be an upset. If a 3-loss LSU beat Georgia in the title game, does a 3-loss even SEC champion get in the playoffs over 1-loss Tennessee, 1-loss Georgia, a 1-loss Ohio State or Michigan? This has the potential to be one of the most convoluted playoff pictures in years if results go the right way between them. I think there's a route in for these teams still. It's going to be interesting though, isn't it, if LSU win it, as to who's going to miss out.
I think whatever happens, if LSU win, I think LSU and Georgia both make it. I think Georgia are fairly safe, to be honest. I reckon if Georgia lose a 3-loss LSU SEC champion, the committee will probably really want to put them in there, but there'll be absolute outrage.
Yeah.
For me, I'd say, are they better than Tennessee? Like, Tennessee have been great, but are Tennessee going to light up the world in the playoffs? I just don't think they're going to. I feel like we've seen the best Tennessee have had to offer, and then when they came up against their first stern competition, they kind of got put in timeout and told to sit in the corner, and it just didn't look good. So this is probably going to be. I think whatever happens, everyone's going to be mad. I don't think the committee can win this year, even though they're always biased. And this year is probably going to be one of the years where they could get it wildly wrong.
But that's it, you could potentially have unbeaten Big 12 champs, 1-loss Pac-12 champs, 1-loss ACC champs, and then you're going against 2-loss LSU, you're going against 1-loss Tennessee and 1-loss Georgia, and whoever comes out on top of the Big Ten, it's mad. But yeah, we'll see with that one. John Ball goes LSU no, even if they beat Georgia. It could. You can't let a 2-loss team in, but I don't know.
SEC champion, a 2-loss SEC champion like LSU. Yeah, they're a cakewalk.
They shouldn't, but they will. It's so intriguing. Anyhow, I'm going to go through all the conferences in a minute because I don't let everyone know where everything is at. Let's just finish off the news quickly. The last one is we've had our first head coach appointment of the season. So the Charlotte 49ers have appointed Francis Poggi as their new head coach. Like I say, first hire of the season amongst all teams who have fired their head coaches. Poggi is currently the assistant head coach of the Michigan Wolverines, so Wolverines fans will know him well. He's held that post for the last 2 years. He's in his 3rd season, credited with having a big role in the Wolverines' recent successes. He's had success at high school level. His school, St. Francis, he was at, didn't have a football program. He created the football program from scratch, led it to national prominence. I believe there is a HBO documentary out about it at the minute called The Price of Winning, so you can see him do that firsthand there. But this is going to be his first head coach job at collegiate level, and the Charlotte job, whilst maybe tempting, presents a huge challenge. They are coming off what it can only be described as a rotten season. They have 2 wins so far, and they are about to move to the American, where opposition levels are going to rise considerably compared to the CUSA. Although thinking about it, I don't know. I don't think there's that much of a gap this year, but on paper, these are bigger schools, more money to spend. This is going to be a tough first assignment for him, 1 year moving up, but congratulations to him. But yeah, he's got a job on his hands there.
I just don't understand it. Charlotte are bad. Michigan are good. Trying to make the playoffs. Why 2 weeks before the end of the season? Like, why now? It can't make any difference now. Like you say, he's surely got to have some ties or something. Why on earth would he go to Charlotte? It just seems a bizarre posting. surely he could have got a better offer. It was obviously not going there for money or for fame because there's no recruits there. He's leaving his cushy life behind to really put his whole reputation on the line. It's just, do you know what? It's going to be one of those weird ones like where it's a godsend and a saviour and he makes a real name for himself. Or in 12 months' time, he's crawling back to Michigan and hands his knees and he's asking Harbaugh, can I have his job back, please? He's kind of just one of those where it's either going to be all or nothing. There's going to be no middle ground here. It's a wild one. To lure him there is brilliant.
Yeah.
I don't know what they did. Did they drug him? Make him sign on his paper? Did they knock him out? Oh, yeah. But fair play to them. That is on paper, that seems like a fantastic hire.
Yeah. But like you say, it's easier said than done, and Will Healy, who got fired from there this year, is very highly thought of and respected as a coach who's been a head coach for a long time, and he couldn't make it work there. I mean, obviously they've had quarterback issues, so, can he get that sorted? He's going to have to do a lot of rebuilding over the summer, because that defense, which was like, I think it was in the 120s last season, it's not gotten much better this year. So, big job for him, but no, well done anyhow, so best of luck to Francis Poggi, and we'll hope he does well with the 49ers, the Charlotte ones. That is right. That is everything pretty much for the news. I don't think there's anything else I've missed out. If there is, I'll put it in next week. So before we go through all the FCS stuff and that, I just want to go through the conference standings just to give those of you who are listening a kind of idea of where the conferences are at this moment in time, what the championship games are potentially looking like, which teams are in the mix. So as Ryan said, some of the fixtures have actually already been sorted with a few weeks left. So we've got out of the 10 conferences, we've got 2 full fixtures set up so far. So in the SEC, we've just been mentioning it, we are going to get a championship game of Georgia versus LSU. The Bulldogs have steamrolled the SEC East. They now hold a 2-game lead over Tennessee with just 2 games left, but the Vols cannot overtake them due to the head-to-head record. So the conference is Georgia's. LSU, meanwhile, they've completed what would probably be called the most stunning of comebacks to take the SEC West, and that's with 2 games left. After that opening day defeat to Florida State, the mess up on special teams, I don't think anyone saw an SEC West title in their future, but with 2 games left, Alabama and Ole Miss can both draw level on 6 conference wins with them. But LSU holds head-to-head over both those teams. They've beaten Bama, they've beaten Ole Miss. No one can overtake them. And now they've got a chance to win the whole SEC, which, as we've been talking about, will cause the College Football Committee, the biggest of headaches come decision time for the playoffs. This is generating a lot of chat. John Ball says if Georgia loses, Ohio loses, will either be in the Final Four. If Ohio lose, they're out. Whoever loses the Big Ten match next week is out, regardless, unless Georgia inexplicably lose 2 and everyone else loses. There's only one Big Ten team going to be in there. SW Lang goes, I think if LSU wins out, beat Georgia, they're in. Yes, probably would be. So yeah, there's a lot of chatter about this at the moment. Derek Bobarek goes, if Michigan beat OSU this year, oh my god. Yeah, well, they want to hope for bad weather. If they get bad weather, then that Ohio State team is poor and Michigan will kill them. To be honest, I think on a good day, even though it's at Ohio State, I think Michigan win by a few scores just because of that run game and how tough they are. So, yeah, we will see with that one. But yeah, SEC, Ryan, LSU, Georgia. Can LSU upset them? Well, I mean, I guess they can, but do you think they can?
Yes, and I don't think it'd be an upset. I think LSU right now are on the crest of a wave, and right now they look fantastic on both sides of the ball. Harold Perkins right now, one of the best players in the nation. He's got hot at just the right time. He was an absolute phenom in that last game last week. And Georgia have had a nice, cushy season. They've not been really made to work that hard, I feel, for the majority of the year. But I feel like that might change. Like I said, LSU pause, just that different kind of thing. Like, can Georgia stop Jaden Daniels, like 35 plus rushes of 10 yards, like the best running QB in the nation? Can they stack the box? Can they keep him contained? Because they're used to teams that want to just try pass on them. collapse the pocket. So we're going to really see a lot about that defense if it can keep contained against a fantastic mobile QB. I think for the playoffs, SEC champion gets in, whoever it is. Big Ten champion, whoever it is, gets in. Big 12 champion has to be unbeaten just to be considered, but might not get in. I think USC, unbeaten Pac-12 champion, has like a 1% chance of getting in. I'd say so. I'll go with LSU win. I say Michigan win because Travion Henderson has missed back-to-back games. There's someone not out of him. He's hurt.
All their running back rooms hurt.
If he can't go against Michigan, I'd write them off instantly.
Even though it's in Columbus. I still would anyhow. I just don't think Ohio State have the backbone to deal with them personally. This is from me. I'm the toughest critic of Michigan, but I still think they're going to win by a few scores. Yeah, but the SEC is going to be very interesting. Right, so the other one. So we have a championship game in the Atlantic Coast Conference. That is going to be Clemson against UNC, which we have briefly mentioned. Clemson have ran the Atlantic side of the conference, going undefeated, whereas next best team, Florida State, have 3 conference losses, but they are second in the conference, so well done, Ash. Silver medal this year. In the coastal side of the conference, UNC have also ran the conference. They are undefeated so far. They can actually be caught by Duke on 6 wins, but UNC holds the head-to-head, so they still win the conference. So Clemson, UNC, this is possible Heisman quarterback Drake May for UNC against that fearsome, full of potential first-round draft picks Clemson defense, and this, I think, would be intriguing. I don't think it's as cut and dry. A lot of people would just say Clemson, but I think UNC would have a shot in this if this turned into a shootout.
I've got UNC as favourites. Clemson don't score heavily because DJ Uiagalelei has gone back to playing like crap again. Will Shipley is now their main outlet. And I know the UNC defense can be floppy, but when UNC win this title game, I will give Drake May the Heisman. I think 2 awards can be won this week or win this game. I think Drake May will be it'll be very hard to catch him. He will be the Heisman clear front runner when UNC win this title game because I think he's going to rattle that secondary. I think Josh Downs as well is going to put himself into first round draft consideration as well. This is going to be the biggest stage for him to play on, and I think UNC just deserve it. Gone under the radar the entire year, no one talking about them, no one giving them any attention whatsoever, but quietly had one of the best seasons. I know the schedule's not been that hard, but they've still been putting up some staggering numbers. So I feel like this would really be the feather in the cap, and this would be like, I just feel like in the moment, in the headlights, DJ is just he's gonna falter.
Yeah.
His draft stock is on the line. This will be the biggest game he's gonna play. Could be in his career. Because like I said, since Trevor left Clemson, they ain't really been it, have they? So now this is kind of them because UNC just play splash players. They score heavy, hard offense. Can Clemson keep up? I'm not convinced they can.
It depends if they'll rely a lot on Will, won't they? Will Shipley will have to run for 200 yards and 3 or 4 touchdowns probably and get some receiving yards in there as well. But that UNC defense always, for me, keeps them in. That's what's keeping them out of the playoff talk for me. I mean, TCU get knocked for their bad defense. I mean, they actually came to play last weekend, but still, you can't. That UNC defense is holding them back. So I think it will be close, but I would have them as a 1-score favourite. I think they could win it, but Drake May for me is just ahead of Blake Corum in the Heisman running for me. I think those 2 should be right up there for the Heisman, but he's got 34 touchdowns and 3 interceptions as a freshman. I mean, that's staggering ball security for a young guy in a division that's tough. I know I say it's not great on schedule, but a lot of better quarterbacks have been picked off a lot of times in there. Sam Howell was, and I mean, he's had a staggeringly good season, so we'll see what happens. But yeah, Clemson UNC is going to be the Atlantic Coast Conference Championship game. Now, the rest a lot is still to be decided. So we'll head to the MAC first. So in the Mid-American Conference, Toledo have taken their MAC West, and they will be in the MAC Championship game, which is held at Ford Field. They have compiled a 5-1 record in conference. No other team in that conference is above 500 currently, which just shows you the state of the MAC at the minute. In the East, it is more complicated. So Ohio currently lead the way on 6-1, but Bowling Green are 5-2 and can still win it. And would you believe they both won last night? It was the early slate of games. So next week's game, the last game for both these teams, it is Ohio versus Bowling Green. So they are basically in a shootout for the title next week. So it's going to be Toledo versus one of Ohio or Bowling Green. And I mean, what a turnaround for Bowling Green, right, to be in chance with this. They had 60 dropped on them by Eastern Kentucky, who were an FCS team, at home a few months ago, and they're potentially going to the MAC game at Ford Field. It's going to be interesting here, because the MAC, I just couldn't call a winner in this whatsoever.
With no disrespect to the MAC, it's a mess.
It's like the Mountain West.
It is, yeah. Like, it's a lot of teams that are average at best, and it makes it really fun. Like, there's no one that pulls away. Like, the fact that Bowling Green even won last night, kind of ridiculous, because they didn't really deserve it, did they?
No.
The lead so late on. And then Ohio are a good team, like you say. Like, yeah. They're in the driver's seat, like I said. They know that. I don't know. I think it's harder to know you must win and can't lose. All the pressure is on the Ohio. There's no pressure on Bowling Green because them losing don't matter. But they've got everything to lose. Ohio, Bowling Green have got everything to gain. So I'd probably tip the Falcons because of how much pressure there is on the game for them. There's nothing. Like, they can go there, cause a huge upset, and win the division on a head-to-head. Whereas, like say, another team has to play conservative because they're worried about losing.
Yeah.
And it's mental games. Mental games like that can do funny things to a team. So I'm going to take Bowling Green in an upset.
See, I was talking with James about this in our Discord the other day, and he's like, if Bowling Green, or I think the other one at the time, who else could have made it? Was it Kent State or one of the others? He goes, if anyone but Ohio reaches it, then Toledo are going to win easily. I'm just like, I know you're the MAC expert, but for me it feels like anyone can beat anybody. I'd be the same. Bowling Green have just beaten Toledo, so there's no reason they can't do it again in the championship game. So yeah, it's going to be one of Toledo versus Ohio or Bowling Green in the MAC. The ACC, that is wide open, so there were some big results in that this weekend that we're going to talk about later. UCF, Cincinnati and Tulane all sit 5-1, and SMU and Houston sit at 4-2. So the ACC, it's the best two teams go to the championship game in conferences. So all of those five can still technically clinch one of the top two places to make the title game at this moment in time. I mean, you know, we talked about SMU and Houston disappointing this year with Tune and Mordecai, but no one's moved away in there, and you know, it's five teams. I can't really pick this out here. I feel like UCF are going to do it now, but then it comes down to Cincy and Tulane, and I don't know whether Tulane have just lost gas at the wrong time. I can't call this one at all. This is another where everyone can beat everybody.
I mean, UCF have head-to-heads over both of them, don't they? So I'm pretty sure UCF have beaten Cincinnati and Tulane.
UCF
so I'm pretty sure.
But if they lose out, I think they've lost to SMU. Then that's what I mean. It's a weird culmination, but these five teams could all.
I think UCF should definitely make it. I don't see them losing out, and they've got those big head-to-heads at the top. So I'd say they've got the most breathing room right now. They can't afford to slip up, but lately they've been on firing all cylinders. So I expect them to get the job done. The other four fighting for like one spot, I ain't got a clue. Like say Clayton Tune, Houston, offense can be pretty explosive. Defense terrible. They've been dragged into I think 3 overtime games now this year because they just can't get it done. SMU, abysmal defense, pathetic, embarrassing.
Yeah.
Offense is Tanner Mordecai and Rashid Rice is basically that whole offense. If they get fire in, they're in it. If they don't get fire in, you can write them off. Cincy, really just not impressed with them at all this year. Just don't rate Ben Bryant very. It's going to be another year or two before they reload everything else to the draft. They're lucky to be where they are right now because they've not been great, but yeah, it feels like UCF versus everyone else. I'll take Tulane because I know that they still can be a juggernaut on their day, and despite the recent loss, I think they can still bounce back.
Yeah, I think UCF have hit form at the right time, so yeah, we'll have to see with it. But yeah, I feel like UCF are going to be in it, and I feel like they're the favourites for it at the minute, especially with their win this weekend. Right, so we move on to the Big 12. So that again, best two teams go to the championship. No conferences here. TCU have ran the conference and gone unbeaten, 7-0. That was something no one would have said at the start of this season. They've got first position. They've got a berth in the championship game sewn up. This is a remarkable turnaround. This is a team who has not been to a bowl game since 2018, and now they've just won the Big 12 outright in the regular season. Hell of a turnaround from them and Sonny Dykes. Kansas State are 5-2 in second as they control their own destiny, but Oklahoma State, Texas and Baylor are all right behind on 4-3 with a chance to steal second spot if the Wildcats slip up. I mean, I feel like Kansas State will see it at home from here. I think they've got the head-to-head over Oklahoma State and Baylor, if I remember rightly. But I don't know. Do you see any of these teams upsetting? Do you see Kansas State mucking it up from here?
Well, Baylor are going to lose this weekend, so Baylor are out. Right, looking who they've got this weekend, I'm pretty sure Baylor are done for because that'll be another loss in conference. Kansas State, I can see them mucking it up. I can see them slipping up. And it would be a travesty if someone like Texas made that game because Texas are a shit show. I really think whoever makes this game is going to be awful. The Big 12 is really bad. If you take out TCU, they're not even all good teams. They're all just teams that just, like we say, we've seen Texas nilled. We've seen Oklahoma State get shut out. Like I say, we've seen Oklahoma get absolutely slaughtered.
Yeah.
We've seen these teams all lose like 30, 40 points. And these are supposed to be some juggernauts who play all offense and no defense. We've not seen that all this year. So it's Kansas State's to lose. They need a bit of help. Like I say, getting rid of Baylor this weekend. Oklahoma State, they're Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde, aren't they? You just don't know which Spencer Sanders is going to turn up. Sometimes he's in their mix. Sometimes he'll toss you nice foreign interceptions. So I ain't got a clue with this one.
No, me neither. I don't know. I hope TCU run the table and go for it all, but yeah, I don't know.
I don't trust TCU.
I know. I don't know who's going to come in second. I don't trust Kansas State, even though I probably should. My gut feeling is they're going to do it, but I'm not 100% sure just yet. But yeah, very close in the Big 12 still. Grandizer's in the building. Thank you to you for joining as always, good sir. I can see a question in there. I will come back to it later on when I can find a respective portion of the show where I can put it in. John Paul goes, don't know how you guys do it, keeping track of all these college team and players. Good job. A lot of work, John. A lot of work. My prep docs are usually 10 or 12 pages long, but we put in the effort. We like to try and let people know what is going on, so appreciate the kind words there. Right, so next, the Big Ten. This is simple but complicated. So the East is going to be decided between whoever wins between Michigan and Ohio State, unless one of them should suffer a shock defeat this weekend, even though it will come down to the big game next week. So it's Michigan and Ohio State there. The West is a flaming pile of garbage. And literally every team in that conference, bar Northwestern and Nebraska, can still win it. Illinois, Iowa, Minnesota and Purdue are all 4-3, and Wisconsin are 3-4. I don't know if we want to spend any time talking about this, right, but good God, it's even worse than last year.
Please, just get rid of conferences. It's a shit show. It's horrible. That West is rank.
Yeah.
The 4 teams named, they're all pretty bad. And for the sake of them, I'd rather not make the game because you're going to get annihilated.
Yeah.
It's like last year. You did the same last year. You didn't deserve to be in the title game because Wisconsin and Minnesota ballsed it up on the final day. Right, and like I said, one of them's going to balls it up as well on the final day next week. So
could you imagine? Could you imagine if it was Michigan versus Iowa again? I wouldn't even try this year. I said I was not going to watch the game last year. I watched the game last year and I had to bleach my eyes out afterwards. It's just, that's no offense to Michigan, by the way. It's just Iowa. If they've still got the second worst scoring offense in the entire country. If they win a conference with the second worst scoring offense in the entire country, I think they should cancel the lot of them. They should just cancel it all and burn it down.
It just says a lot like when you're. The head coach is still there because their half of the draw is so winnable.
Yeah,
and it has been for years. Like the moment that gets blown up and it's one big division, like half those head coaches will be fired because they won't be able to even get a sniff.
Put it this way: Northwestern could still have won the title as of last weekend, and that's Northwestern who haven't won a game since you saw them in Ireland, what feels like 10 years ago. So, yeah, that says a lot. Kool-Aid Kids in the chat on YouTube said, hey boys, thank you for joining. Really, really appreciate it. It's not good. Right, let's move it on to something maybe a little better. So we've got the CUSA. So UTSA are back in the championship game once more. They have a perfect 6-0 record in conference so far. It's been more due to the arm of Frank Harris this year, as they've no Sincere McCormack in the running game, but they've still breezed through it. This is actually, it's not conference anymore, it was last year. This is top two, so the second spot is getting fought over between North Texas and Western Kentucky. They both have one conference game left. They've both still got non-con games late in the season. Both are 5-2. So, I mean, UTSA lost a lot of talent to the draft this year, right? But they're back.
They're still the best of the rest out there. Like I say, everyone else trips over their own feet in and out of conference. UTSA, when it comes to facing rivals in conference, they're just unrivaled. They just get the job done. It doesn't matter how they do it. As you mentioned this year, they've been through the air and on the ground with Frank, with a decent running game. But they've had to win games different this year. And then the other two, toss up really. It's probably going to be their out of conference game that decides it, because if they both win this weekend, both still level, is there a head-to-head? Have they played each other?
Oh god! I just said how prepared I am on here. And hang on. Let me just check who's playing who. They've still got non-con games left, but it is. Have they played one another? I feel like North Texas have the win over them. Yes, North Texas beat them 40-13. So North Texas hold the head-to-head.
So, yeah.
So it is in North Texas's hands.
Match the records.
Yeah. So it'd probably go with North Texas versus UTSA. Interesting clash of styles there.
So winning, they're in this weekend.
29-year-old Austin Allen leading them to a championship. I mean, that'd be a good story for him. 29 years old, so that'd be great. But feel good story. I still think UTSA are going to trample anyone who gets through to it, though. They've beaten them both. So, yeah, that's the situation in the CUSA. Megan has joined us in the YouTube chat. She says, greetings, gentlemen. Let's go USC. Oh, we've got an Arizona State fan on the panel here, Megan. But, he might agree with you a little bit. But, yeah, thank you for joining. Really appreciate you joining us this evening. Derek in the Twitch chat says, you guys come across as more prepared than any podcast I listen to, and I spend more time listening to podcasts than I probably should. Hey, Derek, we really appreciate it. Thank you ever so much. Right, Mountain West, nothing is decided there yet. In the West, Fresno State lead the way 5-1 with a one-game advantage over both San Jose State and San Diego State, and they've beaten them both. So Fresno need to win just one of the remaining two fixtures to secure the conference, and they're playing Nevada this weekend, so make your minds up on whether they're going to do it or not. The Mountain Conference is a two-way scrap. You've got Boise State, they're top of the conference 6-0, and Wyoming are right behind on 5-1. And the two teams play each other this weekend. So a Boise win seals the conference. A Wyoming win puts them level and gives them the head-to-head, so Wyoming would just need to win out, basically, and the conference is theirs. So looking like Fresno State on one half of the draw, right, bar a massive upset. Then Boise versus Wyoming this weekend. That'll be tough, that'll be physical, but it should be, compared to some of the others, a decent championship game when all is said and done.
Yeah, I like these straightforward ones. Boise win and you're in, lose and you're probably out, I'd say, because they won't have another chance to take over Wyoming. So I feel like Boise might struggle with that. Like I say, it's been an up and down year, especially with them. Like I say, they've had to win games a lot different because they've been short-staffed a lot of the year, lost their quarterback. They've only just found that recent run game with George Halani. So I think Wyoming will like their chances to try and nick the top of that lead. Fresno State, no, they shouldn't have to worry about Nevada. But when the two winners meet, I think that should probably be the most even game we're talking about.
Yeah.
It's like I say, they've both been fairly straightforward seasons for them, so it'll be a total toss of a coin whoever gets that one, I think.
Yeah, agreed. It's gonna be interesting to see that one when it eventually happens. Right, Pac-12 time next, and I'm sorry we don't get to mention Arizona State this year, but you knew that one a long time ago probably. There are still 5 contenders for the Pac-12 championship spots, again as there's no conferences this year. So USC currently top with a 7-1 record. Oregon and Utah are both 6-1 and they play each other this weekend. UCLA and Washington are 5-2. But UCLA play USC this weekend and can claim the tiebreaker over them. Utah have the tiebreaker over USC, and Washington have a tiebreaker over Oregon. So this is still all very convoluted at this point in time, and this will likely not be decided till the last week of the season. Obviously, USC can clinch a spot by putting away UCLA this weekend, and whoever wins out of Oregon and Utah is probably going to put themselves in that second spot, providing they don't mess it up on the final week. But it's been, I know you're not high on the Pac-12 at the minute, but it's been competitive in terms of there's some good teams in there. Quite a few good teams, but no completely outstanding one. Yeah,
teams have got closer together in the middle, but no one's really pulled away. USC, explosive offense, Caleb Williams. They'll win this weekend. They'll book their spot this weekend. Defense, he conceded 37 points to Arizona. It's piss poor. Sorry, Megan. USC, your defense is bad. And I think you should agree as well that you conceded 25 to Arizona State. We were barely even at quarterback battle. So you conceded 60 points in Arizona. That's worrying. I'll say that. That's very worrying. But I'd say Oregon, Utah, I'd say the winner gets a big jump in the race to try secure the place, but that one feels like a cosmic toilet, I'd say, because Bo Nix right now is still on fire.
Yeah.
They may have lost recently, but like I say, that won't halt his progress. I still expect Oregon to make the championship. Just because they've had a blip, I don't think that should. If they lose this weekend and the season gets derailed, that'd be sad for the Bo Nix story, but they'll also probably really piss off Dan Leeming because he's probably been one of the better first year head coaches.
Yeah,
he's done really well. So yeah, I'd say from like Oregon down to like Washington State, the Pac-12 has probably been really competitive in the middle.
Yeah,
obviously you got the teams at the bottom: Arizona, Colorado, Arizona State. They were just trying to cause upsets.
Yeah,
not really in it. Like say like Washington, their season ended when Arizona State beat them.
Yeah.
UCLA, like I say, lost a big one that we'll talk about, and that probably ended any real chance they've got as well. So it's 2 spots, and there's 3 teams that can realistically get it.
Yeah, so I mean, in Washington's case, Washington have to win and then hope that Oregon wins the Utah one because they've got the tiebreaker, and they have to hope Oregon loses the week afterwards as well. So they're banking on 2 straight defeats. I mean, it's still mathematically possible, but yeah, you're probably looking at USC and one of Oregon and Utah at the minute. But it will be really interesting. I would love to see a USC-Oregon title game because like Bo Nix versus Caleb Williams, I think that could potentially be one of the highest scoring ones possible. So that would be my favourite, but I'm not going to throw shade at any of the others. because if UCLA, Washington, Utah make it, I still think it will be enjoyable. And the last one, because we've still got a lot to go through, the Sun Belt. So, Coastal Carolina are champions of the East with a 6-1 record. They can still be caught by James Madison, and they play each other on the final week of the season. So, James Madison could have the tiebreaker on them, but unfortunately with the move up from the FCS this year, they are prohibited from playing in championship or bowl games as part of the move up. So Coastal by de facto are going to win because James Madison can't challenge them in the West.
Get rid of that rule.
Yeah, it's a terrible rule.
That rule's got to go. James Madison are one game away from a title game in their first year. I know it's not very often it happens, that's probably why they have the rule, because they don't expect it, but it's taken all the fun out of that last week. James Madison, if they beat Coastal, it won't mean anything. They'll come top and still not be champion.
Yeah, or potential, because I mean, Coastal's game's been called off this week against West Virginia, hasn't it? So, but it's sad, but still a great start for the James Madison in there. So Coastal Carolina's champions of the East. In the West, Troy and South Alabama are locked in a dead heat at 5-1 apiece, but Troy holds the tiebreaker as if they win out, the West is theirs. South Alabama need to win out and hope for a slip up from Troy. So it looks like it's going to be Coastal Carolina and that high-powered offense under Grayson McCall against the Troy Trojans' really stingy-ass defense, which is, I said at the start of the season, it's one of the best defensive rosters in the country. I mean, which is weird for a Sun Belt team, but it has lived up to the hype.
Yeah, I saw their score this weekend, and there weren't many points in that game, and that was for a reason.
They've won 3 games this season, scoring 10 points, I think it is. Or two scoring 10 and 1 scoring 14, and they've won them all. So, it will be an interesting championship game, will it not, though, if Troy get there? Can Coastal break it down? Because they've not played each other in the regular season.
A clash of styles.
Yeah, it is a weird one. But that is everything in terms of the conferences and how they are aligned at the moment. So next week we'll probably know the vast majority of what's going on, apart from in the MAC and in the Pac-12. So hopefully you all got a little bit out of that. Megan's in the chat. She goes, Travis Dye is out for the season. That's a great concern. That's a big loss for USC. Big loss. Even more pressure on Caleb Williams now. So is it John Ball goes, is it next year they go top 6 for the championship or 8? Thought I read that somewhere. The playoffs don't expand for a few years yet, do they?
No, it's 12 in 2024, 25.
12 in 12 in 2024.
We've got 2 years still.
Yeah. Oh, Megan goes, Oregon is good, but there's no way they beat Utah. Now, if this was last year, I'd agree with you, because Utah burned them twice, but I don't know. I ain't fully sold on Utah this year. I think Oregon could win that, but Bo Nix could easily screw it up. Right, let's move on, because we have a lot of stuff to do. So, before we go into the Week 11 review chat, Ryan has his report, Ryan's report, for the FCS. That is further along than the FBS is at the moment. That is really coming into playoff season now, so I'm going to hand it over to Ryan, who's going to let us know what's going off in the Football Championship subdivision.
Yep, it'd be surprising that actually there's even less decided currently in the playoffs. So only 4 of the automatic 11 bids of the playoffs are actually... We had 3 last week confirmed that I named. We've only got 4. So in 1 week of big games, only 1 other team. So there's still a lot on the line. So my players of the week, I've gone through the air and on the ground. Through the air, I've got quarterback Tim Demarat from the Fordham Rams in a 45-10 win. He went 32 of 45 for 482 yards and 4 touchdowns. He had 5 carries for minus 28 yards and 2 touchdowns, and also had a reception for 11 yards on a trick play. So he did it on the ground, through the air, and receiving. So that's fun. And then Montana State, we'll see them next week in College Game Day. Markai Key Johnson, the running back, had 242 yards and 4 touchdowns on just 13 carries, with a long of 78. So, he barely touched the ball, and he was explosive on every play, going for stupid yards per carry. Game of the week, no massive games, but some big games. So, Sacramento State, stay number 2 in the country. They beat Portland State 45-17. Holy Cross State undefeated, so Sac State, Holy Cross both 10-0, on the verge of perfect seasons. They edged Bryant 36-49. A team that has been unbeaten all year has fallen. The Princeton Tigers lost 24-20 to Yale in an old school rivalry Ivy League matchup. Cornell, Big Red, that famous academic school, took down Dartmouth, also a big academic Ivy League rival, 17-13. North Dakota won the Battle of the Dakotas, 28-19 over South Dakota. A huge upset. 1-win Drake took down 7-win Butler, 27-24, which is quite a surprise, I must say. Number 4 in the nation, North Dakota State, edged 21-18 past the Southern Illinois Salukers. Montana, since losing to, I think, Weber State 2 weeks ago, they've now won back-to-back games. They beat Eastern Washington 63-7. They've now scored 120 points in 2 games. So they're going into that rivalry game next week, Montana State, full of beans and scoring very heavily, but not to be outdone. Number 3, Montana State, went out and beat Cal Poly 72-28. So we could be in for a barnstormer next week, because right now they've got about 300 points between them in the last 3 weeks. So Montana v Montana State will either be terrible or an absolute humdinger. I'm not sure which one. Well, the waiver will probably decide that for us. In the playoff rankings this week, the biggest risers, New Hampshire, up 5 places to 20. With Princeton's loss, they plummet 6 places down to 22nd. Entering the rankings new this week, we've got North Dakota, we've got Florida A&M and North Carolina Central, and falling out, Idaho, Rhode Island and Eastern Kentucky. And in the playoff brackets, so as I mentioned, it was St. Francis that won, it got an automatic bid because someone else was ineligible. And we had Holy Cross, we had Sacramento State. Joining them this week is Sanford. They have now won the automatic bid for the SoCon, the South Conference. So that's 4 out of 11 automatic bids won. I expect nearly all of them will probably fill in this week, but on the 20th of November will be this weekend the playoff berths for the committee bids. So I'll probably know the whole playoff picture by next week. The committee over the next week will decide who fills in spots 12 through 24 and has to play and doesn't get a bye in the first week. So the playoffs right now are very fragile, and I can't tell who's going to make them because they've got 24 places. I don't know what they gauge it on. There's so many 8 and 7 win teams that right now I couldn't predict anyone that's going to make it. It's absolute chaos. So yeah, so hopefully next week I'll probably have a clearer picture and at least some of the spots will be filled in, if not all of them.
Well, I was about to say, once those playoff brackets are fully confirmed, I want predictions and winners off you. I want to see just, if he can find the creme de la creme of the FCS before it happens. So, yeah, thanks ever so much for that, Ryan. That's everything that's going on with the FCS. And with that, we will now turn our attention to the FBS. In week 11, there were a lot of shocks and spills and thrills. Draft stocks are plummeting, draft stocks are rising. Let's take a look at a few of the games here. And as always, with the title of the College Football Podcast, if you get into that, you are the first game we talk about. This week's title, The House That Vander-Built. We are going to talk about the Vander-Built Commodores. I mean, wow, Ryan. The Vander-Built Commodores on the road to the Kentucky Wildcats. 17-point underdogs on the road, not won a game in the SEC in 26 attempts. One of the longest losing streaks in conference, in college football. And what did they do? They only went and damn well won, didn't they? Yes, Vanderbilt 24, Kentucky 21. So the Wildcats will be heavily disappointed with this. They were at home, favoured by 17 points. They won the turnover battle, and they were up late in this one, and they let Vanderbilt come up with the most unlikely of game-winning drives. Vanderbilt got out of 2 4th downs, including a 4th and 11, and they successfully drove all the way down the field to take the lead, a lead that Kentucky could not recover. Will Levis got sacked, threw an incompletion, then he threw a pick, as this was a damaging day for his draft stock. I mean, no one saw this coming, and this just means that a really, an inconsistently not great season for Kentucky just took a massive downward turn.
Yeah. What an awful year to be a Kentucky fan. Even Chris Rodriguez did his best. He had like 160 yards on the ground, I think. Like he put in one of those phenomenal efforts. Will Levis, he needs to find the plug because his draft stock is going down the drain. The bath is emptying. It's been a really, really bad year. I was super high on Will Levis before the year started, but I'm not anymore. Nope. I don't want him with the Lions picks. I don't want him with our pick. I don't want him at 11. I don't want him at 12. I don't want to touch him because for all the arm talent and the size and the speed, decision making and accuracy is dire. He has thrown interceptions in nearly every game of the season. Even when they destroyed Youngstown State, I'm pretty sure he threw 2 picks. I think they got a shutout win. He still just makes bad, the game against Florida, where both him and Richardson were making mad mistakes. And then this game, that final drive, just no composure in those big moments. He could have been the hero. He could have.
Yeah.
They'd have dodged a bullet if they'd beaten Vander-Built. But in the end, Vander-Built deserve it. And I'm pretty sure now they've got either a better record or a better SEC record than Texas A&M, which is crazy. Vander-Built had a phenomenal year. And it's a program on the rise because since last year they had Ken Seals Jr.'s quarterback who was pretty good. He was a good quarterback, and his team has kind of been slowly building for the last few years. I'm hoping this offers optimism for next year. I don't want to see them go back to being the whipping boys of the SEC because that's no fun. But yeah, thoroughly deserved and kind of their bowl game for the year, this. And with that, Kentucky, hopes and dreams are smashed.
Yeah, it's not great for them. Megan's in the chat. She goes, "Okay, gents, heading out. Thanks for another great stream. Let's go, Trojans." Thank you for joining us as always, Megan. She adds, "I don't get the Levis hype and I don't want him in Seattle." Well, we don't want him in Detroit. She doesn't want him in Seattle. Nobody wants him. And besides, I thought Seattle's getting Geno Smith long term. Do you still think they're going to draft a quarterback, Megan? I thought they were going to give a long-term deal to Geno. I think that seems to be the direction they're heading. Grandizer goes, "Yes, my school, University of Kentucky, go Big Blue, playing like rubbish." I love it. We're changing Grandizer's vernacular. He's using rubbish now. We appreciate that, Grandizer. We'll get you there eventually. We'll have you in the full British mode of speaking eventually. But yeah, thanks, Megan. Enjoy your time because you're back in Australia now. So thank you for joining us. This was weird, Ryan. What made this even worse? Oh God, have I lost stream? Can you? Oh no. I think I've lost stream. Can you still hear me, Ryan?
I can hear you.
My computer's just frozen, so I'm not sure what's going on in regards. Just bear with me a moment. Oh, right, I'm gone. Here we go. I think I'm back. That was really weird. Computer just froze up big time there. Hopefully everyone can still hear and understand us at this moment in time. Don't know what went on there. So, right, yeah, this was really weird because this was not like even Kentucky got lucky. So the turnovers in this game,